Hey, I'm Andy. Welcome to One Charge, a series where I rework video game music within the confines of one battery charge of my laptop. Today, we are working with a piece called Sloprano. It's a bit of a weird one. Let me just unplug real quick. Okay, I'm unplugged. Let's take a listen. This piece is from Conker's Bad Fur Day. If you don't know about this game, look it up. It's kind of weird.
I am the great mighty Foo, and I'm going to throw my shit at you. A huge supply of tish comes from my chocolate starfish. How about some scat, you little twat?
Yeah, I think I'm going to unironically turn this into a really emotive, sentimental, like chamber orchestral piece. It's either going to be really memey or just really whatever, maybe 80 beats per minute. And I'm going to start by adding in some kind of a string, chamber strings like chords. Sounds pretty dry. I like it. It might actually be easier for me to punch in the notes by hand. Especially for chords, I don't care too much about the human aspect of it. Let's lay some chords down real fast. Usually when doing these kinds of chords, I try to limit the number of voices to maybe 4. Sometimes for the thickness, I will sprinkle in a 5th voice, like I did with this 3rd bar. The great mighty Pooh. So this thing that I often do is I cut a little bit of the mid frequencies. It really depends on the instrument, but typically there's an area that's muddy, and I'll solo it here so that you could hear it. Doesn't sound super great. Now the final step before we move on to the next instrument is to add a little bit of dynamic. So what I do is I hit record, and then I just record the dynamics. I'm gonna redo that because I think I started too high, so it was too bright at the beginning. Notice that I'm riding up and down between every bar or 2 bars, kind of creating a little bit of that wave-like motion. On to the next instrument. For the melody, I think some kind of woodwind instrument would work pretty well. Cool, I'm gonna cut the reverb because I'm gonna add my own, and let's just get right into recording. So I recorded a part there, and I took the liberty of changing the melody a lot, since it's not super fun to just do a carbon copy of the original tune. Oh, before I do the cleaning up, let me add the dynamics. Not even gonna EQ it, just wanna move on now. I'm gonna real quick add some basses, pizzicato. I'm not going to quantize this because, especially with double basses, the timings are so unpredictable. I just noticed that the light kind of moved a little bit. Now it's dividing me in half. Alright, I want to add a counter melody, but I think it should be some kind of horn. I'm going to take a quick sec to mix some of the tracks a little more properly. So I'll start with the oboe, and I'm going to add a compressor. Cool. And EQ. I think just overall there is a lot of high frequency harmonics that kind of hurt your ear. And for a lot of brass things, I like adding a saturator, like FabFilter's Saturn. Saturation is like a very, very mild and subtle distortion. that you can't really even discern, but it adds more warmth. Some might even argue it gives a little bit of that like analog tube quality. Now I'm gonna add some regular pizzicato. Quarter notes. I'm gonna automate the volume a little bit, because in this part the oboe gets pretty loud. So I'm just gonna lower it a couple decibels so that the horns can have a chance to shine. I think in this part the horns poke out a little bit too much, so I'm going to automate that as well. Now I want to add a little variation to the second part, so maybe I'll add like some woodwind kind of flourishes. Maybe that's a little too energetic. Do I want to quantize this? I think it sounded fine even just me playing it, so I might just leave it. I might separate out the woodwinds into two separate tracks. I'm even just going to duplicate it just because I want the lower notes over here to be a little bit quieter. I'll rename this woodwinds high and then woodwinds low. Delete all these low notes. And then for this one, do the opposite. Whoops. Ooh, adding some chimes sprinkled in would give it quite the right contrast. While we have a little bit of time, I think I will quickly pan some of these things left and right a little. We love going with the stereo pans. For example, I would want to throw the high woodwinds a little left, low woodwinds a little right. Bass, anything low frequency you generally want to keep centered, so I'm not going to touch the bass. String pits to the right, horn melody. Okay, I definitely want the oboe and the horns to be on opposite ends of the ear. Let me just add a little bit of a piano at the very end. Last but not least, I'm gonna add a little transition thingy. Probably gonna filter out a lot of the highs. Oh, for sure. I have time left over to do a little bit of mastering work, so let me just pop in a limiter. I wanted to do an unironic, emotive version of Sloprano, aka the Great Mighty Pooh from Conker's Bad Fur Day. It was indeed unironic, but it's not very memey, which is fine. I think if I made it memey, it would have been horrendous. Anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in and see you next time.